Let's go. Hi, and welcome to Real Siblings It Ain't Easy, a real estate and lifestyle podcast that, well, just ain't typical. I'm Eric. She's Donna. We're the Real Siblings. Thank you for joining us today in this episode where, Donna, isn't it amazing? 67, that's how old you are, right?
It is like there's this whole thing around how old I am.
This whole thing. Which is it?
Ooh, you had to do the motion. So if you're watching this, you saw that, but if not, Eric did the whole
Did you
balancing.
hear the hand thing?
When you
So I
went,
have to say, when I threw this idea out to you to be as trendy and topical as we could be,
yeah,
4 or 5 months behind, or the trend, uh, is because honestly, having no real connection to that age group at this
right.
point, I was doing my one of my early on Santa Claus events out in Bandera at the 4-H meeting, and somebody said, "Hey, can you do 6-7?" Like, what did you ask me to do? I had no idea. And of course, I have to be very, very careful what I do say and what I don't say. So fortunately, it's like, oh, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. And the parent supervisors were there. And it's like, okay, so what is 6-7 now that
Right.
I know I could not possibly or risk
I didn't.
offending somebody? And it was this. So because of that, I did not realize that that was going to dominate a couple of other events
Oh,
that I had
interesting.
in the season. And the biggest one was when I did the parade that I've done now for 5 years. And it's very, very interactive. It's not like
A big city parade.
parade where it's like, oh, Santa has to be this, or the Macy's, or the
Yeah,
Chicago, or
yeah.
Houston, or pick a big metropolitan area. This is a small, and I actively engage with and listen to the kids and talk to them. And so it's like, Santa, do a 6-7. Well, that was it, because then the rest of the parade, because the kids down the street had seen it, then they wanted me to do it. So at one point, I was with the Helotes Cornival Queen in her court, and it's like, okay, we've been asked this enough. I need everybody to 6-7 with me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and now, Eric, anytime somebody does that, it doesn't mean that for the first 66 years of my life, nobody did that. It just means that now, and that you guys was me moving my hands up and down. It just means that now that is equated with this word of the year from 2025 or what? How can it even be a word of the year? I don't even get it. From what I understand, so these trends are coming more from middle schoolers than from high schoolers. I haven't traced back to see who,
We
what,
did, and
where.
it has that there, and okay, so you have to filter, right? We all get our access to all the different bots and
Right,
AIs
right.
and things and news clippings, and then you have to filter: is it real? Is it not real? Honestly, that you have to be so savvy on it. So
Yeah,
there is a rapper that it ties back to, and then some athlete did something. I think it was a basketball player. Don't remember who. From what I saw, did it at a basketball game. Going, well, 6-7 doesn't matter. And from there, it just took off.
unbelievable.
So the teachers are talking about, it's like, oh yeah, every class. I can't even say the numbers
Right.
right now.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I want to ask you about the. It's like, no, don't bring it up. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
So 6-7, how does that relate to real estate? And I'm going, this is
Ask
what we
you.
do with our buyers, right? Needs wants, needs wants. And as we prep for this, my thought was, it's easy for me to relate to food. I'm a big guy. I like to eat. We need to eat. I need food. Then you get into the wants.
Yeah.
Do I want a big, juicy hamburger? Okay, if that is the one, now do I want to go to a local burger place, or do I want to go to In and Out or Five Guys or Whataburger
Or make your own.
or make my own? And oh my goodness. So there's the need, there's the want. And we have to manage that with our buyers
And
as part of the shopping process.
and Eric, I might add and see if this works into buyers and sellers. The food pyramid that we grew up with isn't even the same. You know, you learned what you were supposed to have in each category. We memorized that probably for a science test at some point.
Yes, we did.
And now even that's tilted on its side or has changed. So
Right, because
just
now we all have our own individual my plate, not a
right.
food pyramid.
Yeah. Yeah. And in housing, with the way that interest rates have changed in the last year, needs and wants have changed. Because if you still want a home and you need certain things, but your budget is changed, that changes the whole mindset of the process.
Absolutely does. And again, need. Do I need to be close to work?
Right.
Do I want to be close to work? I have conversations that's like, well, I don't want to drive. I don't want to drive more than 15 minutes to get to work. Well, depending on traffic, depending on construction, depending on what's going on in an area, guess what? That may mean that you need to be in the apartment across the street.
That's what I was thinking, especially about where you lived when we talked about how many lights there are now compared to when we first moved
In
out.
the last episode, when I said what used to be one light is now 15
Yeah.
to get to my house if you took exactly the same route that you used to take.
Yeah.
Loop 1604 that I mentioned in that episode is under construction from my road, Bandera Road, on the far south northwest side of town, all the way over to the northeast side of town. Two separate construction projects, stretches over 25 miles. It's been under construction for 2 years. It's kind of like Ina Road, right? It
Oh
was
yeah.
Ina that was
For
under construction
all of
forever, getting
Tucson
off I
feel,
10.
yeah. Yeah, it's always the orange cone
So
season.
you have to balance that. It's like, okay, but that also means, depending on where you're at, that housing may not meet their budget, just like you said. If there are a couple of areas where there are smaller universities, not big Division I universities, but they are small established universities. They've been there for years in San Antonio, and right in those immediate areas are where the professors and there's old money that's there. Students can't live in those things. A new student teacher coming in can't afford to live in those places. You
Yeah.
probably can't even afford the rent on a room in
I
some of
would
those
bet you that
places.
every college has those areas. I feel like we have, this is where the professors and the the people working on their PhDs live, and this is where the students live with the university in the middle. They are not the same place.
And that has become enough. Sorry, because we go a lot of different directions, as those of you who are regular listeners, and if you're listening for the first time, in the teaching that I do, talk about protected classes. And we have specifically federally mandated protective classes. You can't discriminate based on race, based on familial origin, based on family structure, those sort of things. Austin, Texas had to pass an additional protected class for students
Wow.
because students were starting to be denied housing based on being a student, because the reputation for all the parties, all the booze, all the,
Mhm.
and I was part of that. I'm not going to say I wasn't. Michigan
Yeah.
State, I was part of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It got to the point where it's like, look, you cannot deny based on being a student. So it's an
Wow.
additional protected class in order to get students close enough so they don't have to have a car, and the other because of how far that way they have to live from the university.
So is that on your fair housing document?
It is for Austin.
Wow.
It's something that is city
Wow.
specific that you
Wow.
cannot
That's fascinating.
discriminate based on that. So
Yeah.
when I work with the owners that I have that I help market to find tenants, it's like one of them I work with did not have his criteria put together. It's like you have got to put your criteria together as what your selection is. That way you cannot possibly be accused of discrimination because it's all there. It's this credit score, it's this income, it's these things, whatever those things are.
Okay.
So that's taking us way off the subject.
Well,
Needs wants.
yeah, for me, when you first mentioned this, I thought about the generations that I work with, the people with babies, growing children, people that are scared to have a two-story house because they never lived in a two-story house, so they don't know how much fun it is sliding down the stairs, you know, and stuff. And those of us that had basements and upstairs and narrow stairs and all of that. The kids, and I say kids in air quotes because I don't even know how old that is anymore, that think that if you don't have a granite countertop, the counter won't work. Well, no, it really will. That Formica works, that butcher block works. It's just that you just came from this house. So that's a want. That's not a need. A countertop, that'd be great. Yeah, have the countertop.
Because I'm going to cover it with the toaster oven or the air fryer nowadays, as much as you do a toaster
And the
oven,
Instant
and
Pot.
the coffee and or the espresso,
Yeah.
because you can step down and do drip coffee, or you can make your espresso.
I went back to drip. I went back to a Mr. Coffee and took my
And by the time you cover it up with everything,
yeah.
do
I'm
you
looking at
really
my
pay
counter right
that
now.
much attention?
Yeah.
And I've had clients in the past where the way they live and the way we had to clean up for sale
Hmm.
so substantially different. Otherwise, that waterfall edge
Yeah.
on the island, nobody was going to pay any attention to it because of everything else that was there.
Ah, interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
And you can get so far. I joke about the fact that there is a specific granite style that is used frequently by builders in San Antonio and upgrades that I just refer to it as Aggie granite or A&M granite
Is that based on the
because
color or the design or
it's
what?
got burgundy flecks in it. And it's not that it's not used everywhere, but you walk into the house, and I actually was with somebody one time going, no, this isn't the place, because he was a University of Texas graduate. That's burnt orange. I
You
was
wanted
not
that
walking
longhorn color?
into a house that had burgundy flecks all over the granite countertops.
Oh my Lord.
So how far can you take the needs and wants?
Well, and Eric, on the other side of things, because I have had knees and hip replaced, I'm a bathtub person. I like a bath. I like soaking in a tub. Gil did. Caleb does, But post surgeries for joints, you're not hanging out in a deep bathtub.
Nope.
So the walk in shower really matters. And whether you have a seat built in or a chair available, that's now a need at this stage of my life. It might have been a want in the past, but now it's a need at some level, an easily accessible shower. And when I remodeled my bathrooms after the roof leaked, I took out all the bars, the assistant bars. Guess who might be putting them back? I'm like, I don't need to
Your
be stuck in
handyman?
this. I don't need to be stuck in this bathtub and calling 911. you know. So they're in a box in the garage, and it's been I don't know how many years, 7 or 8 years now since I
Since
remodeled.
since you had that happen?
Since I remodeled, yeah, not since I got stuck in the tub.
One of my listings that's under contract right now is the one I we did talk about in a previous episode, this 1955 build, but it was a series of modifications over the years,
Hmm.
very much suited owners to take care of their family. It is not necessarily the want for everybody else. So trying to price it was a challenge.
Yeah.
We talked about that when we were talking about value versus price and the market challenges that we ran on that. Uh, Pricing was fine, made
Okay.
value, no repairs. I told you that earlier, but it's still a unique house. And there's things that we want in those modifications that are not necessarily going to meet the needs or the wants of the future owner. And that is a challenging, a tough,
Yeah.
an interesting conversation to have going, look, you made some great improvements that work well for you,
For you.
but it's not necessarily when I say that, I think back of the house that you had several years ago where the lady had done her own frescoes. And
Mhm.
it was the dark, dark, dark kind of eggplant purple with leopard spots on the
She
ceiling and
just
that
moved
kind of
back to
stuff.
town, by the way.
Is she going to start all over again?
She bought a 1947. She was one of my mid-centuries. Yep. And
And you've had some other clients who had some specific other
uh-huh.
decor
Yep.
that you're going, okay, understand, but we got to make some changes.
Yeah.
It's way more than just decluttering,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
trying to get. We even talked about this because I did mention it with a group of my farm and ranch agents. This is we were talking the other day. I said, do we and I sorry, it wasn't farm and ranch, it was on this lead gen team that I'm working on where we're beta testing a bunch of AI stuff. We did a mastermind session, and in that I said, have we gone overboard on bathrooms at this point? I mean, we went from a simple ensuite and not having to, and the 1955 build that I had a very common 1955
Tub
ensuite,
shower.
a
Hmm.
single vanity, a single toilet, and a corner shower unit
Right.
that was probably
Right.
4x4 tiles initially, if it
Yep.
wasn't. Now we've got, there's a builder in town that love the builder, but the last time I was in one of their models and went in, they had an entire area that was the tub shower. Now, it was not a combo beyond the fact that it was three walls of the bathroom were tiled, the floor was tiled. There was a standalone bathtub that could be overflowed onto the tile floor, separate from the rest of the bathroom. And there was also a shower head separate. So the shower head was not over the tub. So you could shower in there or you could bathe in there. If you sloshed in the tub, it was going to be entirely protected. It was behind a glass wall, so three walls tile, the glass on the other side. And I'm going, you just mentioned you like to take a bath, but do you sit there for 2 hours?
No.
I just, there's a point, it's like, there's a lot of money going into bathrooms nowadays
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
I shower, I use it, I wash my hands, I'm out. I
So, so I want to, before we started this, we talked about the hierarchy of needs.
yes,
And
Maslow's
yes,
hierarchy of
and
needs.
so one of them is, shelter. But I was thinking about it related to water. I'm going to tell you about an interview I did the other day. You know that I interview Up With People alumni from around the world. And
Yes,
for the
Cactus Lounge.
yes, so for the first time, I interviewed someone in Venezuela who is a college professor. And when I set up the time, we're a 3 hour time difference, just like you and I have to figure out times. And he said, can we do it like either before or after? Because I have water at noon. I like, what do you mean you have water at noon? And he said, well, I get water from 6 to 7 a.m., from noon to 1, and from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. So at noon, I try to wash dishes and fill things up and, and clean and stuff. And I'm like, well, of course. So my point in that was when I did the interview, I was caught off guard with how this college professor is living in Valencia. And what I get upset if I find out that they turned the water off for 30 minutes and I didn't know in advance. What do you mean? And I have two bathrooms and I have privacy, whatever. and I can go down the block and get water usually, right? So it made me think about our hierarchy of needs and how he sometimes is giving bus tickets to students coming to university because they don't have $2 to take the bus home. So food, water, a roof over our heads, what does that look like? And that becomes the needs versus the wants, which it is beyond that, everything else.
Right. And I think nowadays we talked about the fact they call that the physiological needs. And
Mhm.
then from there, it goes into safety needs, safety, health, employment.
Uh,
Those are the kind of things that probably fall within our realm. After that, it gets into belongingness and love, esteem, and ultimately the top of the pyramid, the top of the hierarchy of needs was self actualization. And if you remember, I told you, I said that's where the Army came up with their recruiting slogan 40
be all
years
that you can
ago:
be.
be all you can be. That is the self actualization at the top of the
Mm.
pyramid. They changed that a couple of times to Army of One and Army Strong. But the other day during opening ceremonies, I think it was, Army had a commercial. It's back to be
Be all
all
that
you
you can
can be. So they've come back to self actualization because trying to explain what Army Strong meant or an army of one
be. Hmm.
was too much. So
Interesting.
the needs wants the 6 7, trying to balance that out. We know it changes between if there's more than one buyer involved.
Oh yeah.
Who wants what? I need the she shed. I need the
Yeah.
the he shed. I need
Yeah.
the man cave. I need to
Yep.
make sure I have A&M granite, or I need to make sure I don't have this.
Are we
Mike
going to take
Mullen.
care of the pool? Are we going to pay somebody to do this
Yep.
pool? Did you really want a pool? No.
Mike Mullen years ago is being a big Green Bay Packers fan.
Oh yeah.
He had a Green Bay room, and it's like, look, if you're going to sell the house, you're going to need to paint that thing. There are enough people that are Dallas Cowboys that going into and thinking, I ain't even going to buy a house from a Packers fan.
That's see,
Um,
that's ridiculous.
it does seem ridiculous, but the comments, the things that are made, you've been out there sometimes, and you're mulling it over after you're done for the day, and you're
Yeah.
going, really? Is that what I'm up against? I have to have this? It has to.
Yeah. Well, and I think you know this, and if you don't, I'll have to send it to you. You know, I have a questionnaire I've called a Realtor Concierge questionnaire for years, and it was so old that the fax number didn't work. It wasn't PDF fillable, and God bless a potential buyer from Houston who was really good at it, and she made it into a fillable Google Doc. But it's all the same questions that I started asking 20 years ago, you know, about what you want and what you need and how much you can afford and all of those things. And then I'll say to partners, have you talked about this together? Like, are you both looking at the same thing? Because if you've got five and she's got five or he's got five and others are now that's 10 because they're not the same.
Yeah, that same mastermind that I was in the other day, someone said they give it to five, and it's like, oh heck no. I give it down to three, going, look, what are the must haves?
Okay.
We've
I do
moved it
five.
beyond needs to, because I expect those three from both of the partners to not be the same thing.
So we
So
each
that
have six.
if hopefully there's one overlap and we end up with five.
Yeah.
But what are those things, needs and wants, big kitchen, small kitchen, big
Yeah.
bathroom, small bathroom, backyard, not a backyard?
Yeah.
Again, one of my listings right now has a smaller backyard. Now it has a green belt right on the side. While I was doing the open house the other day and talking with some folks, the deer were coming up out of the green belt to say hello. There's a
Oh,
lot of people who in a big city that would be kind of cool,
yeah.
but the actual backyard that's part of the property is too small.
Like Mac McGee, man, he's always posting those deer. He gets, he's got a plethora of animals that come to that back door of his house.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Wow. Well, I think that, just if we take it back to the 6, 7 here as we get close to wrapping it up, the idea that there's not a perfect balance. It's rare that the scales are just like that. There's always a little give and take, right? And simultaneously, you got to be somewhere close to balance. Because if it's like this, you're not getting anywhere.
You're not getting there
Yeah,
if you're not bringing it a little bit towards harmony.
right. And our job is to yeah, our job is to help people reach that point, right? Where they
Yes. All right. Close us down, sis.
All righty. Well, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you popping in. The last episode that we recorded, we were talking a little bit more about numbers. So this is kind of about numbers, but a little different. Ooh, is that good? Yeah, if you're
That's
watching.
pretty good.
Anyway, life is and choices always change. And we are here to talk about those with you and to work through them with you. We'd like to remind you, or I want to remind you, that our goal is to entertain you and give you some information that we hope will help you in your process of buying and selling your home. Because if you're selling, you got to keep in mind the thoughts of the buyers, just like you were talking with that Packers room. So if you're in Arizona, specifically in the Tucson area, that's the market where I work with Keller Williams Southern Arizona. And my brother Eric is in the San Antonio area out of the Heritage Office of Keller Williams. And if you'd like help in either of those areas, we are here to help you. And if not, we know this plethora is going to be my word. A whole bunch, a plethora of agents across our state, around our country. And I want to just say, honestly, even in the Tucson area, if it's something I don't know, I'm going to suggest somebody else help you. I will not go out on a limb and say, oh, I can do that if I can't do that. So keep us in mind. Remember, it may be simple, but it ain't always easy. And until next time, I'm Donna,
I'm Eric.
and we are
Real
Real
sibling.
Sibling.